Hello, I'm Darla Drew. I'm your host for the show Don't Miss This, where we tackle all the interesting things that are going on in Rapid City and around the Black Hills, and there is a lot going on. We're doing this show with some help from our friends at NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts, the South Dakota Arts Council, and the Rapid City Arts Subsidy Fund. So thanks to all those people for helping us fund this fun show so that you will know what's going on. Today our guest is Jean Kessloff. Jean Kessloff, okay? Sorry guys, got it wrong. Her name is Jean Kessloff, and she's been working on some interesting projects around the hills for a very long time. Now Jean, before we get into the McGillycuddy House, and that's going to be our focus today, how did you get involved in historic preservation?
I've always liked old things, always wanted an old house. And I think one thing just led to another and realized that history is really important. And of course, I, like a lot of other people, waited too long, didn't record my parents,
right?
Like I should have. And so now you're scrambling to try and put that together. So one thing just led to another.
And pretty soon you were into preservation. And when we talk about that, for your information, we have an actual, help me with the name of it. It's the Boulevard area, the actual name of the Historic Preservation District.
West Boulevard Historic District.
Yes. And I didn't understand this when I first started listening to Jean. I met her through the Rapid City Council that I was serving on at that time. And there's not that many of those protected or even identified districts left in our country, right?
Well, I really can't tell you about our country. We have two in Rapid City, and then other cities across South Dakota have their own historic districts. We've got our downtown historic district and our West Boulevard.
Okay. Well, I read that as far as like historic districts, which were neighborhoods, that there's only 2,300 of them throughout the United States. So that makes it even more important,
yes,
for us to try and save these pieces of our history. And it's not often respected. That's the key, because our history isn't, you know, from medieval England, or it isn't maybe from 400 years ago with just the settlers coming in and things like that. But these are actual homes that were built in maybe what period?
Well, each one has a period of significance.
Okay.
So they go by that. And then they go in and they survey an area. And the house has to be at least 100 years old for their period of significance. And it has to have enough, gosh, I can't think of the term, enough historic significance of the house in order for it to qualify as contributing or non-contributing.
Oh, so it has to qualify.
Yes.
And then say in your area, how many qualifying houses does it have to have? 70%, 80%?
It varies.
Okay.
It varies.
Okay. Well, we are lucky to have one really nice historic district here in Rapid City, and I'm sure I'm surprising no one when I say it's the West Boulevard area. And a lot of those homes have had to be preserved, and it's sometimes been not a pleasant type of dialogue with new buyers and the historic preservation folks, because they didn't understand what it meant to buy a place in a historic district. Maybe you could elaborate on that, but anything from windows to doors to siding, what are we looking at here?
It's not really as scary as it sounds, and the rumors that go around. I live in a four-square. That's the style of architecture of my house. It was built in 1910. And it is what they call sense of place. So if you're driving down the boulevard or around the boulevard, you know you're in a historic district. They want you to keep the outside historic looking. You can do whatever you want to the inside of the house. But it's, again, that sense of place. So whatever modifications you want to do have to follow the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, restoration. There's different categories of that.
And because we have done this and actually, you know, enforce the ordinances for these kinds of homes, we make the other districts that touch it actually more valuable as well. So I think it's really important, and plus this is our history. This is where our, you know, our founders of Rapid City live and lived and worked, and some of their homes are quite wonderful and quite I don't know, a way to recapture that feeling. It really does recapture that feeling. And so now we're up to working on the McGillycuddy House. It's been a long haul. Maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about the McGillycuddy House, who Valentine McGillycuddy was, and why we want to save his house.
Well, Valentine McGillycuddy was a real Renaissance man. He came into the hills to map the Black Hills very early in the Newton-Jenny expedition, fell in love with the hills. So went home, married his sweetheart, brought her back, and he was a surgeon. He just had many talents, a topographer, and ended up being overseeing a reservation and
some education position didn't he hold too?
Oh, he was mayor of Rapid City.
Oh, mayor, okay.
And well, they called him dean of the School of Mines. That was before they called him president. He was the last one to be called dean of the School of Mines. President of the Lakota Bank and Investment Company. He was just many things.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, and he built this fine home on now what is called 8th Street, Mount Rushmore Road in Rapid City. And it kind of got lost over the years. Kind of was a landmark that we weren't really familiar with. So maybe you could talk about how we found the landmark and put it back in place.
Well, it was built on South Street, which was then the edge of town. And it had fallen into disrepair over the years. The top story was taken off. And what happened was there were some people that were on the board with the Feigl House, and they were still kind of recuperating from that.
The Feigl House was all restored.
Yes, it was restored in North Rapid. And there was a collection of furniture that came from the Cliff House from the boulevard, and it was going to be up for sale. And you very rarely will find a collection of furniture that's together belonging to one family. So Feigl House Foundation kind of reinvented themselves as Historic Rapid City. And what are we going to do with this furniture? We have a chance to save it.
Yes.
And we needed a place to put it.
Okay.
That's where we came up with the McGillycuddy House. And can we do this? And
it was for sale at that time?
It was for sale at that time.
Okay. So, and I have to say to our watchers, listeners, whatever, it looked very much not like it looks now with all the work that you guys have put into it. It was kind of just a plain house, and now it's got these gables and all these different things going on, and that was all your work.
A lot of people think that the top story burned off. It did not. They tried to turn it into a bungalow, and they were tired of heating the upper story, so they actually just took it off, turned it into a bungalow, and that's where it was for years.
And now, okay, how did it come to be in possession of the Historic Rapid City?
Historic Rapid City purchased it from Dan Stanton, and the rest is history, actually.
Well, a lot of people don't know much about the history of how you went about trying to get this house back to some of its original shape. I mean, did you have to do a lot of building or a lot of cement work? What did you have to do?
Well, we were very fortunate. The contractors in Rapid City were extremely nice. Not one contractor, but a whole bunch of them did certain sections on the house. and Fred Thurston, Dave Stafford helped with it. Just a bunch of us came together and decided we wanted to do this, and took sections and went over there and worked with the contractors and got it to where it is today.
And where it is today is it's kind of close to being ready to be opened again, to be used as a facility, a small museum, a place to hold informative salons, small recitals, weddings, little parties, things like that. But what we need to do is get the inside done, and that's one of the things that Jean's going to talk to us about right now. The inside has a bit of work to do, but I think when you look at the overall scope of this project and all the money they've put into it, they're really getting to the finish line. You can really see it. So what still needs to be done?
Well, right now we're repointing the sandstone. I mean, the house was built in 1887, so it needs a little work. Framing inside.
I think you need some sheetrocking done.
Sheetrock.
Yeah, painting.
Oh yeah, that'll come. That'll come. The sheetrock. We're trying to get this house on the National Register because it was taken off the register because of the condition that it was in. It looked nothing like what it looked like when it was built.
True.
So
True.
Our goal is to put it back on the National Register. We fortunately have pictures, so we're going to restore it to as close as we can to those pictures, and that includes molding, light fixtures inside. The walls will be finished so they look like they're plaster again. Doors.
You know, it really fascinated me that you said you had to do the lights all over again, even down to that detail. You have to get that right to get it back on those registers.
Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be, but we do have wonderful organizations. I hear that Black Hills Corporation has helped and might be also helping on that since their thing is electricity. So we're hoping that they will come through and help with some of this lighting stuff. And it's remarkable in talking to Jean how many people here in town, the contractors, have really stepped up for this project. It's kind of amazing. I didn't know all this stuff was going on. And I've kind of been fascinated by this house anyway, as I've learned more about historic preservation and why you take a certain house like this and decide that's the one you're going to put your time and talent into. But because he was such a prominent guy,
yes.
That's why you decided this one? Or was it the one close enough that you could get?
It just kind of fell into it because of the furniture and the timing, and we just fell into it. Like I said, that was the edge of town. That's why you see the other big houses on that, but we've lost so many. This is sort of Rapid City's version of the Adams House.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Adams House is fabulous. If you've never seen it, it's in Deadwood. And if this is the vision, I think that this is worth your support, or at least your interest. And to me, since I've got a background in music, I think one of the interesting things you told me you do have is a box grand piano.
Yes.
I don't even know, it just looks like
It's a square grand piano.
That's got to be, I haven't seen it yet.
Which weighs about 600 pounds.
It's very hard to move.
Very hard to move. It's in storage right now. McGillycuddy did have a piano. I'm not sure he had this kind of a piano, but he did have a piano, so it being in the house is okay.
Yeah, I think it sounds really cool to have a box grand piano, and for concerts and things like that, it'd be just marvelous.
That's what I'm thinking. Plus, we have all kinds of, the house is a stick-style house. So people have called us. We've got all kinds of furniture to go in the house. We even have McGillycuddy's bed.
Ah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And it is interesting because it is on 8th Street, which is a very busy street in our town. So what will you do about parking? Do you know yet?
Well, we have a parking lot on the east side of the house.
Oh,
we do.
Okay, they've got that covered.
Yes, and they'll be on street parking. And when they redid Mount Rushmore Road, they put parking down the street, so there is
okay
parking. There'll be plenty
Excellent.
of parking.
That's good to know. I didn't see the parking when I was up there. It's been a few years since I've been there, so I have to mosey on up and snoop around a little bit. So now we're going to be doing a fundraiser, and I hope that anybody interested in beautiful architecture and preservation would help us with this. You'll be able to see it online pretty soon, and I'll catch you up on some of this stuff. But right now it's mostly in its development stages. So you might be getting a letter asking for some help, but just to get it to the finish line, which is not too far away with just $40,000 to raise. So we're confident that we can get that done and maybe have it open by next year.
Yes.
We're hoping. And so, Jean, you also have a get-together or a fundraiser event that happens, I'm guessing in February, but I don't know.
It's Valentine's Day. We kind of own that holiday since Valentine was born on Valentine's Day. That's how we got its name.
Are you kidding?
No.
So, okay, Valentine McGillycuddy was born on Valentine's Day, and so they have a dance in his honor.
Mm-hmm. And we, it's usually held at Alex Johnson, another historic building in Rapid City. It's perfect. It's a whole lot of fun. There's food. The local dance group usually comes and will dance with everybody.
Yes.
It's so much fun. So we're looking forward to it. We haven't had it for a couple of years because of COVID, but we're going to start up again.
Fired up, yeah. Well, I love the fact that it's in the Alex because I love their ballroom upstairs.
Yes.
It's just magnificent. And so it's got a lot of that old school feel to it as well. So, that'll be in February, and I don't know how many does it seat? Like 220 up there, something like that.
Something like that.
So there's not like an unlimited amount of tickets.
No,
and so if you like to go to, do some people dress up in period costumes then they come?
So far we haven't done that. I think that would be a fun thing.
To
do.
I want to do that.
So that's something to think about for.
Yeah. So right now, it just looks like we're really on the cusp of getting this wonderful historic piece of Rapid City back online, so to speak. And also, when you do these kinds of things, and it's a very special kind of person like Jean here, to actually put their heart and soul into this, but it also raises the property values of the other buildings and houses around it. It also helps bring up some of the value of the historic district itself. So this is an important thing in many ways as far as economic development.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and we've got to be proud of our history here in the Black Hills. If some of you know, Valentine McGillycuddy had kind of a storied past, and he's a little bit controversial. But, that's what makes the Black Hills so much fun, is that we had people here that weren't perfect, and they still got their work done and still got us to the point we are today, and moving right along with the restoration of this great historic home. And it's going to be a wonderful facility. It's going to be a great addition to, tourists do come because they want to see areas that are preserved.
Yes.
That's not a rarity. So we've got that in spades here.
Yes. It's right on Mount Rushmore Road, so the tourists, when they come into town, will see it. I think it's a great presentation, great place for it.
So we got to get it done.
We got to get it done.
So that's what Jean and I are here just to explain to you that, you might get a letter in the mail. You might have to look up McGillycuddyhouse.com. Is that what it is?
We have a Facebook page.
Okay, tell us about that.
We have a Facebook page, McGillycuddy House, and it's mostly a posting history on it of what's happening in Rapid City, what's happening with McGillycuddy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I didn't know that. So I better look it up.
It's a lot of fun to find out what the people did back then, what kind of parties they had. If they wanted to see some flower bloom, everybody came over to McGillycuddy's house to see this flower bloom. It's supposed to be an unusual flower. So it's a whole lot of fun, all the stories.
And there's some talk about restoring maybe a fountain in the front yard as well.
There was a fountain in the front yard.
So that would add to the...
That would be fun,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, I just love those details when it comes to those homes.
This McGillycuddy was quirky. He really was. And the house is just interesting to look at, the pictures of the house.
And we're going to try to get some of those up for you when we're done talking here so you can see the house itself. We're going to have some editing help with that, but we will get some pictures up for you of the house. Or you can go look up McGillycuddy House on Facebook and find out a lot more about it, because you know, it's really good to be educated about your hometown. And I think it also extends a little bit of pride to everybody that has had something to do with this. Or if you're just learning about it, you can learn that we really had some very interesting people here that had to fill a number of jobs because we just didn't have that many educated and willing people to step forward. Yeah. So anything you'd like to add, Jean, before we're done here?
Gosh, one of the fun things that we were just given, when McGillycuddy left, his favorite nephew went into the house, cleaned the house out, and took a lot of the stuff to Minaloosa. That's why it's saved. There's a whole display of McGillycuddy at Minaloosa, so you need to go look at that.
Will you get that back?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. It's in climate control there. We won't be, and we're going to be the kind of museum where you can touch things. Okay. You can sit on the chairs, and that's the way you want to be, so people can really get the experience of being in a old house.
Yes.
But one of the things that we were given was, it was told that we were given the intercom system to the house, and I was thinking, well, maybe that came from the later when they did rent the house out to people. But when I went to pick it up, it was actually what they call the enunciator. So it was the tube that went through the house, where if you wanted to call the servants, you talked into this tube, much like the can and the string when you were a little kid. Yeah. So you yell into this tube that goes to the house, comes out at, I'm assuming, in the kitchen, the servants' quarters or whatever. So that's going to be fun to reinstall.
So, but not really high tech.
Not really high tech, no. And then also the buzzer for when you're sitting in the dining room and you want the servants to come in and change your dishes or whatever. There was a buzzer on the floor that you press with your foot, and it rang into the kitchen to tell the servants you need to come get the dishes.
I have one of those, but I don't have any servants, so it really didn't work for me.
Yeah. So that was the fun things that we found, fun things like that here and there.
Well, I would like to thank you for being here today and telling us about one of the interesting people here in Rapid City, and be watching on 8th Street. Now, that's on the corner of what and 8th Street?
South Street and 8th Street.
South Street
Mount Rushmore Road is now.
Yeah, or Mount Rushmore Road on the east side.
On the southeast side. You can't miss it. It sits up on a hill.
Okay. Well, I think that you should take some time and at least drive by it and see what we're talking about here today. Then help us in any way you can. If you get a letter, or if you go on the website or on the Facebook page and decide that you'd like to donate, there's ways to do it there too. So we're a little bit old school in that yet. You'd probably have to write us a check. But, we're working on all this stuff at once and trying to get into the modern age.
You can donate through PayPal.
Yes. Can you? Oh,
yes.
Good one. Okay. All right. So now we know that too. And I'd like to thank Jean for being here to talk about this wonderful project. And hopefully you'll get to see some nice pictures of the project after we get done with our discussion here. Once again, I'd like to thank Backroom Productions for making this possible. This is called Don't Miss This. And also we had some wonderful sponsors. Not only do they have their great sponsors from McGillycuddy, but we get help from the City of Rapid City, National Endowment for the Arts, and the South Dakota Arts Council for doing these shows just to help people understand all the cool things that are going on in Rapid City and the Black Hills that you might not know about. Because maybe TV station doesn't cover this, or maybe it's something that doesn't always end up in the newspaper, but it's something you should know about anyway, as a very important part of history in the Black Hills of Rapid City. So I would like to thank everybody for tuning in today. My name is Darla Drew. My help in this is Barb Evenson, and she will be doing some of the editing for us. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Jean, and we'll look forward to having our first little get-together in the McGillycuddy House.